Anthropic has released two new flagship models built for long-horizon agentic work, Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5. Claude Fable 5 is the widely released version. It uses built-in safety classifiers to review and occasionally decline user requests. Claude Mythos 5 provides the same reasoning capabilities, but removes those safety classifiers entirely. This unrestricted version is available only to approved customers through Project Glasswing. This comparison shows that both models share a 1 million token context window and support 128,000 output tokens. Pricing is also identical, $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens. Because Fable 5 is the primary model for most integrations, developers must build new structural logic to account for these safety-driven request refusals. Upgrading a system from a previous generation, like Opus 4.8, requires rewriting the request logic in addition to changing the model ID. Claude Fable 5 introduces mandatory parameters and response shapes that are incompatible with older integrations, meaning legacy pipelines will fail if they are not updated. The primary breaking points are the new reasoning configuration requirements and the specific way the API handles refused requests. These architectural changes apply only to Fable 5 and Mythos 5. The API behavior for Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku models remains unchanged. To ensure uptime, systems architects must rebuild their request and response pipelines to match these new technical specifications. Both Fable 5 and Mythos 5 become available on June 9, 2026. Fable 5 will be generally available through the Claude API, Claude Platform on AWS, Amazon Bedrock, Vertex AI, and Microsoft Foundry. Organizations must plan for a 30-day data retention requirement, which applies to both models across all supported platforms. Because Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are designated as covered models, zero data retention is not an available option. These compliance standards dictate the deployment parameters for any enterprise developer integrating Fable 5 before the rollout. The most significant change to the request payload is that adaptive thinking is now perpetually active on both Fable 5 and Mythos 5. Because this mode is mandatory, passing the legacy parameter to disable thinking returns an API error. Instead, developers must use the F parameter, scaling the model's computational depth based on task complexity. To maintain safety, the raw chain of thought is never returned. By default, the API provides an empty thinking block. Adjust this using the thinking.display setting. The summarized setting generates a readable text summary of the model's logic. In multi-turn conversations, any returned thinking blocks must be passed back to the API exactly as they were received. This configuration shifts engineering control from a simple on-off switch to a system of dynamic cognitive budgeting. Several specialized features are available for long-horizon agentic workflows. To implement task budgets, include the Task Budgets 2026-0313 header. Clearing tool results through context editing requires the Context Management header. Other native features like code execution, programmatic tool calling, and vision are available without additional headers. Properly mapping these specific headers transforms Fable 5 from a standard text generator into a system capable of autonomous agent execution. When a request violates a safety policy, Fable 5's classifiers intercept the call before any text is generated. Unlike most API errors, these safety interceptions do not trigger standard 400 or 500 level error codes. Even when blocked, the API will not return a failure code. Instead, the refusal returns as a successful HTTP 200 response. To detect this, parse the JSON for stop reason refusal, which identifies the classifier. If your code only looks for standard error codes, it will miss these refusals entirely, leading to application crashes when expected text output is missing. Because Fable 5 can decline requests through these successful responses, a resilient architecture must include a way to reroute those requests to alternative models. You can implement server-side fallback by passing the Fallbacks parameter, which instructs the Claude API to automatically retry the request. Alternatively, Anthropic's SDK middleware allows for client-side routing across languages like Python, TypeScript, and Go. You may also build manual retry loops if your specific architecture requires custom routing logic. Retrying a request that has a 1 million token context window could be prohibitively expensive if you were charged for the same input twice. However, Anthropic does not bill for Fable 5 requests that are refused before generation begins. Furthermore, a fallback credit is applied to the retry, effectively refunding the prompt cache cost of switching models. These billing protections and routing methods allow for highly available systems that do not incur duplicated costs. Migrating from previous models to the Claude 5 architecture requires 3 essential engineering updates. You must remove all legacy disabled thinking parameters and replace them with active effort configurations. Your response handling logic must be updated to parse successful HTTP 200 responses for safety-based refusals. Finally, you must implement server-side or client-side fallback parameters to ensure the system remains available even when a request is declined. Adapting to these API requirements is the necessary first step for utilizing Anthropic's most advanced long-horizon models.